would be great if sometimes when people are coming either away from speakers or
either that, or you can either use the mic, or you can stand just a little closer to the hanging mic.
Awesome. Great. I'll try to speak louder.
Yeah, just project yourself.
All right.
we could hear Alap and Roy quite well.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to get started. Some of the, I also realized that last time I never introduced myself, so just a quick intro. My name's Al. I co-own a social media firm here in Chicago. We started about 3 years ago, and we do a lot of different social media activities for companies ranging from TransUnion and Orbitz to some of our latest clients that are Yum and Turtleneck. So we have a pretty wide range of experience in doing social media marketing for both B2B and for consumer-facing companies. This presentation has some elements from the previous one with some added bonuses. So, and then there'll be some live demos as well, because that's just the easiest way to show. But feel free to ask questions. We have 2 hours here, so please feel free to ask as many questions as you want. So in this part of in 201, we're really going to talk about creating that digital ecosystem. We're going to also talk about specifically how to generate leads and business from social media platforms. We're going to add in an element about blogging and then personal branding. But my points previously about time allocation and analytics are still the same. So we'll spend more time on the platforms themselves and walking through them than just reading on slides, I guess. So we already covered those, but we already covered why you need to do social media. Our industry's changing. More people are online. They're searching for content. Roy had a great example of a prospect, searching you guys up. But really, there's 6 pillars with social media: your personal brands, and then your overall company brand. We're on social media because we want to develop relationships, and that's the key. Social media is just not an activity that exists in some sort of silo. That hey, it's part of my marketing program. But social media is a tool that can help you connect and engage with prospects, your current base, and help you stay top of mind year-round. Whether a big case just finishes up or you're at a conference, it allows you to connect one-to-one. It also is a great way to get feedback. Things are changing rapidly in your industry, and not. Right? Some things are always going to be the same, and some things will change. On my Facebook newsfeed just a few minutes ago, there was this huge, there was a post from a friend of mine about patent trolls. There's a lot of discussion around this and a lot of feelings around this. Is there some meaningful ways that you can contribute to that conversation without putting yourselves at jeopardy for future court cases and whatnot? Do you have infographics at OT or research or insights that you can share to help add to that discussion? That's kind of the key. And then also to hear what your customers want. I think that's a great point that Roy brought up. People think that overnight we can win a patent case or we can value a patent overnight. Clearly, that's not the case. Can you provide some education around that process, that timeline, and just engage in those conversations? It's building trust. With every 90% of searches starting with Google, and the buyer making a decision. 80% of buyers have already made a decision before they pick up the phone to call you. How can we influence that? And using social media and digital marketing is a tool in your toolkit to help build that trust. It's good content, it's good videos, it's conferences, it's tweets, it's LinkedIn messages. Those are all things that will help you create that trust. Relevancy, as you saw in the previous session with IP valuation, that hashtag, there's tweets that are still out there from October 2nd. That haven't been answered, that are right before starting that thread again or that conversation again. So being timely, going into that point is very relevant. And then integrating. Social media can be something as simple as adding a link to your LinkedIn profile in your email signature file, to coordinating tweets with your social media manager here while you're away at conferences and speaking on that. I know some of you hadn't been in the previous session, so this is kind of what the IP evaluation world looks like, and just different platforms. One area that we talked about in the last session was just how many people are actually searching for this information. Are people actually Googling for this? And you can kind of see the number of keyword searches for just 3 terms. And I know your services cover a lot more than just those 3 terms. But these are just some baseline numbers.
Those are Google searches?
Those are Google searches for IP evaluation.
That's global?
That's monthly US.
Oh, okay.
And you can see how competitive it is too. And there's 2 or 3 significant competitors in your industry that are kind of waking up to the fact that digital marketing exists and are starting to blog and kind of become the authority online in your space.
So we don't even have that. I'm just looking at the Google results there. I can just check it right now, but we don't even show up in the top 5 things or whatever.
Nope. But here's where the significant
ad.
Okay.
Those first 3 are ads.
First 3?
The first 3 or 4 links. I think you guys show up somewhere along the process.
Ocean Tomo, sort of towards the bottom of the page.
And that's interesting because, as you know, the top 3 links, the first 3 organic links, get 90% of all traffic. But interestingly enough, for this particular search term, I think it was just IP evaluation. There is a Darden white paper on methods of IP evaluation, which I'm sure and confident that you guys own that process. And that's just a white paper or an infographic that we need to create to help rank for that. One of the best ways to create content is taking existing content out there in the universe and just updating it for the current year. This white paper may have been written in 2012. I'm sure things have changed since then. So it's just updating that. It's a technique called skyscraper in the SEO world, where you're just going to build off existing content that exists, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Here's some tweets. Quora we talked about last time, and I can pull that up again. And then of course IP evaluation in LinkedIn. Due to just some of our work with you guys in the past, many of you have high-ranking profiles on LinkedIn, and we just need to add those updates to them. All right. So next up is, when I think about OT and your personal brands and kind of the ecosystem that exists for a potential customer in hiring your services, they're either going to start with search or they're going to discover you some way. And I kind of outline the platforms that I think are on that journey. Maybe I read about OT in the news, so there's some sort of press release. I perhaps have done a Google search, or maybe I'm looking on LinkedIn. But either way, I'm going to search or discover you by reading a blog or watching a YouTube vid. And then I'm going to assess and figure out, am I going to retain OT as a firm or not? I might use LinkedIn. I might look for people that have worked with you in the past or that might be connected to one of you and ask them for a reference. And I might Google some more, perhaps come across Jim's article in Cranes or any number of the publications that he's in. And then I'm going to contact you, right? And I'm probably going to engage with you, and at that point, I might connect with you on LinkedIn, I might tweet about it, most likely not, but at least if it's a big players, I might follow along, and then I'll refer you, either by personal email, by tweeting some of the news that might have come out, or by writing you perhaps a recommendation. So this is kind of how I see social media working for you, both on a personal brand perspective and in terms of OT. Do you guys kind of think this is relevant, or any questions? So here we'll skip through this because we already talked about most of this. For those that weren't in the first session, ranking on LinkedIn is very, very critical for terms that you are experts in. So this just kind of walks through that example. But the meat of this 201 is to figure out how to use LinkedIn to actually create new business or be top of mind or be more relevant. One of the things that we touched upon in the past session was just connections. And so this is different opportunities and ways you can connect to new people, potential prospects, or other targets. So how many of you have LinkedIn premium profiles? Anybody? I think Roy does.
Actually, I LinkedIn premium profile.
I'm pretty sure we
I
signed
don't
up. Maybe you did sign up. Oh, this is relevant because I know all of you are engaged in going to conferences and trade shows.
Maria might have had a question.
Go ahead.
Maria, do you have a question?
No, I was just saying I have a premium profile and it's really nice. It helps.
Is that SF salary adjustment?
Apparently.
So we'll just go quickly into it. A lot of questions are around this because this is like $200 plus a year. But it allows you to do a lot more things than a basic profile does. So some of you may haven't upgraded to this new look. LinkedIn is rolling out a number of upgrades for its system. One of the key things that a LinkedIn premium profile allows you to do is see everyone that has looked at you. So, there's just, with a basic profile, you only get the last 7 views. Here, you can do any number of things. For example, I have no idea why this person has looked at me. And I go to their profile. Because I have a premium profile, and their third-degree connection, I can actually see all of their information. So it's great for even just, I'm having a meeting with a potential client, or I'm starting this engagement. What are some points of connection? Because rapport is very important in our industry, right? We're in the services business. So the more information you have, the better. In Ariel's case, I can do a few different things. I can connect with her and say something, as we discussed in the last class, something creepy like, hey, Ariel, I saw you looked at my profile. How can I help? I can say, Ariel, came across your profile, would love to connect and learn more about you. Some more advanced techniques would be to get introduced. So this is how the introduction feature works. So you just press. I don't know if anyone's used introductions in this room, but I can ask any number of these people for an introduction. So I just drag them into here. Oops. And say intro request. And then ask Michael to introduce me to someone that knows Ariel, because she's a third-degree connection. So this is kind of a long call here. Michael has to introduce me to someone that may know Ariel, and then I have to get 2 people to magically make this work. This is tough. So then the third route, if I think she's a good prospect or a good connection to have, is just to send her an email. And that's another premium profile, premium feature. I can choose a category and say, consulting opportunity. And so this is kind of a way to reach Ariel, who's looked at my profile that I know that might be interested in my services, just to be more direct and let her know that I know. Any questions on connections and creating connections? There's a couple other ways too. There's a lot of conversations around, do I have 500 plus connections? Do I connect with everyone I know? Do I just connect with people that I have hand selected? And there's probably 2 real distinct theories on this. One is connect with everyone and anyone without any regard to why they're trying to connect with you. The other one is more handcrafted approach. My strategy is that if I've met them in person or if I've had some sort of contact with them, I will connect with them. Because the more people you're connected to, the more your messages get a broader reach and amplification. If you know 1,000 people, that 10% may potentially see your status updates. That's a whole lot more people than if you just knew 100 people. On the flip side, if you know 100, targeted people, your message has more relevancy. So it's really kind of based on what you want to do with your personal brand that I'd recommend. If you're doing biz dev, having more connections is actually more relevant. It allows you more opportunities to get connections, to get introductions, and to be able to get more references. Any questions on connections? Because I think It's pretty critical in your LinkedIn strategy to have the right types of connections too. Connecting with your next door neighbor, who may or may not be in your industry, has limited value, but they perhaps know the IP officer of Pepsi, and that's great because now they can actually help you get to that contact. I think the second more important topic for this class is, what is it that we actually write about? What do we talk about on LinkedIn? Does anyone even read anything on LinkedIn? And I found this great infographic that kind of walks you through it and the types of content that you can generate. But first and foremost, using LinkedIn as a way to stay top of mind is probably the most important aspect. You're generating content. You have thoughts. You have nuggets of wisdom to share. And that's the most critical part. Posting those as status updates, even if it's twice a month or every other week, allows you to stay top of mind in your network to past clients, former colleagues, and potential prospects. And that's where the real value is. In the last class, I really talked about using LinkedIn as a way, as a base, to form better offline connections. So things that happen on LinkedIn, you can easily make a phone call. Hey, I saw you got a new job, or congratulations on a new baby. Just helps you as a tool to stay more connected and generate potential business. So 3 main things: being front of mind, lead nurturing, and lead generation. I really think the second point, being useful, is the critical component here. What types of things can you talk about that will be useful to somebody?
Yeah, to your point about like a baby, something weird happened to me on LinkedIn recently where I got an update that it was somebody's birthday, right? And it's somebody who we're sort of trying to convert a sale with right now. And so I went ahead and mentioned, I saw it was a happy birthday, but I put it in the context of, isn't that kind of creepy that LinkedIn's, doing our birthdays now? And so we both had a laugh about it and it worked. But what other kind of stuff is being, like what kind of more social stuff is being picked up by LinkedIn, and where's that going?
So LinkedIn is trending, towards being your new Facebook, right, for your professional life. And, the additions of birthday, your marital status, everything, you can actually choose to display on there. When we worked together, for example, we decided to do, we'll put your birthday on there, we'll do this or we'll do that, or we'll put some interests in there.
Right.
But I think it's relevant in terms of when someone's switching careers, or someone has a work anniversary, or someone has a birthday, if there's a good way you can go about it. I think birthdays are a little bit weird still.
Right.
But I've congratulated people on anniversaries, or I've sent them a note offline.
But then don't you worry that they're going to be like, how did you get that information?
But they put it out there, right?
Well, sure, but I didn't remember putting my birthday on LinkedIn, and it is in fact there. And I feel like a lot of people aren't going to remember if they have an update, if they just set their profile 4 years ago and let it go. So I think the calculus is you have to take into account probably the age of the person, how tech savvy they are, and just be cognizant of the fact that you may surprise them.
I think some of it's just gut feeling, right? Like, is it going to help your relationship by sending them a thank you card or a birthday card or some sort of a note or flowers or something like that?
Right.
It probably will initially creep them out, I'm sure. How do they find this out? But I think the action is so thoughtful that they'll quickly.
Right.
You can always preface and say, "Oh, I saw on LinkedIn it was your birthday," right, or something like that, so they know you're not just Googling their Facebook or something weird like that. Yeah.
That's more heartfelt though.
Engagement letter in hand, right inside the window.
Did you find my birthday on LinkedIn? No, I creeped on you.
The cool thing
Hey,
is,
Alan, before I forget, what about this whole annoying endorsements thing? I got some people, I got nothing else to do but send endorsements. I don't really send them back, so I don't know if I'm insulting them, or, do people, if they're looking for an IP evaluation expert, do they literally search on, give me the IP evaluation expert that has the most endorsements? I really don't think so. So what do you see as the advantage of that?
I don't see any advantage.
I don't want to get them, I don't want to get them.
To be totally frank, I don't see any advantage to the endorsement system, and I actually don't actively really +1 people unless I'm teaching a LinkedIn class and I'm showing people how to do it. I do think as time goes, it'll be a critical factor in your rank. It's not there yet. What LinkedIn is trying to do is that no one likes to write recommendations, and no one has the time to write recommendations. this is just an easier way to not only get recognition, but also to come back to LinkedIn often, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll +1 me for IP valuation. Let me go see what else you did. So I think right now it's not relevant. It's not very critical.
Okay.
Over time, it will be. It'll probably replace recommendations in terms of.
It'll replace written recommendations.
Well, in terms of plussing you is so much easier than writing
Right.
about my experience with you.
Okay.
But it's not there yet, and I would ignore it if that's the approach you want. So we talked a lot about this too in the last class in terms of profile views and what to do with them. I always consider, and we've talked a little bit about this last time, when people look at you and don't reach out to you, doesn't that mean that they don't want to be contacted? And that might have some merit to it, but I never like to assume, so I just go ahead and reach out anyways. Either my phone number might not be right, or perhaps I didn't leave my email on my profile. If you feel creepy about doing things like that, you can give them call to actions on your profile, like download my white paper, or read this blog that I wrote on the OT sites. Give them something to do at least, so you can let them choose to at least take some action. Most of our LinkedIn profiles are very basic, right? Like they have our phone number. Well, making a phone call is a pretty big commitment, right? If I'm going to call Cecil to engage him for an engagement, there's a lot of things that are going to go into that process, versus me just looking at his profile to see if he's the right expert. So give me some things to do, and read and check out and whatnot. LinkedIn does this pretty well in terms of giving you some basic stats on how your profile is working. So, over here, this whole area here is basically how well your optimization is working, and how people are finding you. So you can sort by company. You can sort by other viewers. You can search by location, just to get an idea and categorize who's looking at you. A lot of our work in the past with you guys has been, well, these are just colleagues, which is totally valid. So you can filter them out, and then you look for prospects instead.
And is this premium functionality or?
This is more premium.
Okay.
But this basic page, I think, comes up.
This one does.
Yeah.
You just want to have all the data.
Right.
Here's the business. So one of the best uses of LinkedIn in kind of a more advanced setting is to really just get a detailed perspective for your clients or for PR pitches, for news articles. It allows you to research them. It helps you find common connections and it leads to more warm calls. I don't know what percentage of biz dev you need to do or you do in your current lines of work, but and I don't know what your process is, but I'm sure it starts with Googling someone. LinkedIn is probably one of your first or second links. And when you have a premium profile, you get more in-depth information if there's second or third degree connection. So I also wanted to show you just search screens and how to use them in LinkedIn. So this is a premium feature. But what you can do is you can type in IP officer. You probably don't want first degree connections because you already know them. But you're looking for new people that might have this title. So let's just do a very basic search. So here's all the folks that have some sort of IP. I don't even know if that's the right title.
I would do maybe IP Council.
I'll try that in a second.
Okay. Well, you got John Veshy, so
Yep.
doing something right.
So this is a great tool, right? Whether you're at a conference, whether you're pitching for your business, whether you're looking for prospects, whether you're looking to reach out to 3 new people every week. You can set up a search screen like this to find opportunities for connections. I picked second degree because there's someone that you know in between that can easily introduce you or connect you to that person. So if I want to get to John, I'm going to contact Roy and say, hey Roy, I'd love to work with Nortel. Can you connect me with John? For example, right? I mean, I think that's definitely a stretch at my end. But whatever the case is, this is just another tool to allow you to prospect better. Any questions on search screens? You can do this for, so I only have 7 results for second degree connections that are IP officers. I'm sure I'm connected to all of them through Roy. But you can do this in a variety of ways.
And again, is this premium functionality?
Now there is a basic search function that has less options that'll help you. So, I mean, more often than not, you can just use this bar and just do IP word. And this will show you everybody that's an IP word, for example, and you can kind of search, drill down from there. Any questions on this? We talked about InMail, so I won't cover that, but let's say I was trying to reach John. I would go to John's profile, or Lee, let's say I'm trying to get to Lee, he's a second connection. I'm going to press the connect button, pick send InMail, and then here's my InMail to Lee. Premium profiles have this feature, you get credits for it. For me, for example, I get 5 InMail credits a month, and I use that to send them to people that I want to do business with. Any questions on InMail? More than, I think 50% of the people that get InMails have no idea what they are. So don't be offended when you don't get a response back. And I often find that a lot of people on LinkedIn don't know. Some people just use it to browse, and to look for career opportunities or to check people out that they're meeting.
So we can't, if you don't have a premium account, you can't send InMail, but you can reply to an InMail if I receive one.
Yeah.
You can't have that.
So I'm sure, like, career-wise, you get InMails from recruiters, possibly.
Right.
And they're using it as a way to get to you directly, to be at the top of your inbox, to reach your actual inbox. So, I don't know if you guys have seen this feature either. There is a new kind of contact.
What's the difference between sending InMail and sending a message?
InMail is usually to people that you're not connected to. So they're usually like 3rd or 2nd degree connections. And InMail is more commercial. So it's more of a, I want to do business with you type of email. A message is more something that you probably, like just a regular email.
Right.
Monica, are we not connected? So there is a new feature that was announced late last year. It's called Contacts. It's LinkedIn's version of the CRM, and it allows you, if you hook up all your emails, to monitor your relationship with those folks. I can add notes, how I met, and I can tag. Tagging is the critical area where you can sort and organize all your contacts into like prospects, leads, clients, colleagues, employers, friends, and then tailor status messages to each group. We covered best practices last time around, and then we're just going to move into Twitter if there's some other questions. Anything? Everybody's sleeping after lunch? This should be a little bit more different than our first session. So, anybody need to go over Twitter basics again? That wasn't in our last session.
That's all right. Yeah, let's go over Twitter.
Yeah,
Dan needs
slow on the
he's
uptake.
embarrassing. That's it.
A Twitter leech. I just suck information. I don't really contribute much.
let's just actually go into one of our accounts.
We all create
So
like professional
Network for
profiles.
Teaching Entrepreneurship is a nonprofit here in Chicago. And we'll just kind of walk through that profile. So when you log in at first, it's your timeline. So all the people that you follow, all their tweets,